Hey, welcome to episode 60. How are you doing today? First thing I want to ask you to do is give me 5 things that you're grateful for. Doesn't matter if you tell me. If you do, that's great. If you don't, that's fine. Because sometimes the things that we're grateful for are personal. Sometimes we don't like to share that much. Not everybody wants to be on a podcast. Not everybody likes to talk too much. But let me tell you something. I think it's important to find ways to share what matters to you to other people in your life, to find ways to be connected, to have those spontaneous conversations, and have people that you don't have to think twice about what's right for you based on the people that you're surrounded by. Find your community, because that's kind of what life is all about. We can all play games and chase money and go to work to pay bills and then die, but it's a bit deeper than that. So I really hope you enjoy this episode. We talked about religion, we talked about breakup, we talked about McDonald's, we talked about dogs, we talked about depression, we talked about therapy. There wasn't too much that we didn't talk about. So I hope you enjoy this one. Thanks for listening. Welcome to the Lifestyle Chase. This podcast features high performers who have found a way to live their best life while balancing their health, wellness, friends, and family. Proudly hosted by me, Chris Little. Without further ado, let's get started. Okay, welcome to episode 60 of the Lifestyle Chase. I am joined by Louis Guarino. Did I say your last name right?
You did.
Sweet, score. So I want you to share a fun fact with the audience because I know you've been working on diversifying your languages. How many languages can you speak?
Fluently one, English, and that's even kind of I don't know. But so far as like what I want to learn is I want to learn fluently French and Spanish.
Yeah, like
just because why not?
What was it that you were learning that there's like 8 or 10 different ways to say? I think I saw it in your Instagram story.
Yeah. So I grew up. So I'm half Hispanic, and this is again. I was never really taught I never, like, my mother never spoke Spanish to me. My grandmother, because we lived in New York, and it's you learn English, so to speak. Like, we didn't really, like, I guess maybe growing up for me wasn't necessarily a necessity to know Spanish. So I never learned it, but I always knew like some of the foods and whatnot. But this is a little fun FYI for everybody if you didn't know. But gandules is pigeon peas, which is a type of bean, obviously. But if you have regular black beans, it's frijoles, or frijoles negro. And I had rice and beans, and I took a snapshot, whatever, and did some macros on it, whatever, and I wrote it down. Every Spanish speaker that I knew, because I have a large Spanish following because of my boy Alberto, and I must have had about 9 or 10 different ways to say rice and beans, or rice and black beans, I should say. And they came from all over the world, like whether it was Spain or somewhere, one country in South America, or a couple of the Caribbeans or Central America. Like, there's always just for rice and beans, how we all say rice and beans, there's about 9 or 10 variations of rice and beans in Spanish, which is crazy when you think about it. But then you have to also realize that, like, it's different people all over the world, and people have different phrases and sayings and slangs and whatever. So, like, I mean, it makes sense, but as somebody who's just now learning this stuff, I'm like, damn, there's really that many ways to say rice and beans in one language. And it was like, wow, like, it's pretty cool.
Well, it's kind of the same as when we were all carpooling at Kansas City, and in that vehicle, everybody had a different way to say certain things.
Oh, yeah. I mean, but that's the thing too, right? Like, I mean, even within the States, when it comes to language and communication, right? Everybody knows about the Southern drawl, but then you have like that New York kind of accent, or what people call a Yankee accent or a Yank accent. And then you have, like, people from the West Coast, which are more laid back and, maybe slower in speech, not necessarily dumb. I don't want to sound like that, but like slower in how they get words out, versus like a New Yorker who's just speaks fast and slang. Yeah, it's like a really cool thing. Like, it definitely is a cool thing. And I just think that that's the beauty of of humanity, right? We're all different.
Totally. So, if we took a time machine and went back 20 years, where would that put you in your life, and what was life like at that point?
20 years ago, I was. I'm coming up on my 20th anniversary. Yes. All right. Actually, it was around this time. God damn. 20 years ago, I was 11 years old, turning 12. I was in fifth grade, going into sixth grade. And I broke my arm going down a hill on a big wheel, trying to impress this girl on my block, that on my street, like back then, right? So like, I was kind of like surfing on the big wheel. So like I'm actually like I at 30, almost 32 years old. My birthday's in 3 weeks. Like this story still makes me like I still like maybe it's PTSD. Like I don't know, but like I think about it and I just cringe and I get so like, ugh. And shoot, oh yeah, so I was going down this hill and I was speeding, no helmet, like I was just such a dickhead. I was like, why would I do this to myself? Like, but you know, when you're trying to impress a girl, you'll do anything, right? In this case, I broke my arm in two places, so like, I was like, all right, whatever. So I'm going down this hill. I put my foot out to stop, and I flip over, and I put my hands out to stop my fall. I scraped my hand so bad, like it was awful, and then I snapped my arms, like I snapped both bones in my arms, and I still have a scar there. You can still see it. It was about the doctor. I remember saying something along the lines of it was either like 1 to 2 centimeters away from breaking skin and then needing surgery. I was like, I remember going to the hospital and screaming. I was like, I don't want to lose my arm. Oh my god, dude! Yeah, I remember that was a tough time. But 20, yeah. So then I was going to sixth grade. Oh, fun fact: if you haven't noticed, especially from after we met, I like to talk a lot, and I remember being in fifth grade, and at the end of my grade 5 year, we used to have like my teacher would keep track of detention days on the chalkboard, and by the end of grade 5, me and this dude that I used to go to school with, we each had like I think we had tallies of like over 30 something days of detention. Like I hadn't done a recess in months because every time I would be almost done with it, I'd get detention. I just think my teacher was racist and I think she just hated us because we were like the only ethnic kids, but whatever. Like she just gave us attention every day for the dumbest things. I was like, oh my God. So I was like, I at the very end of the school year, I was like, she probably will not be listening to this podcast, but I just said her name and I'm like, hey, like, am I gonna have to complete detention in sixth grade? And she was like, no. I was like, but then my sixth grade teacher, same thing. I was just racking up detentions just because I was always talking. Like, whatever. Such is life.
What is like three lessons that you learned from like the experience with your arm? Like, because you talked about PTSD, how it kind of stuck with you, but I'd imagine you kind of took some things away from that and have applied it to your life going forward.
No, actually, honestly, dude, I am not that. I am not that deep. I did. I was just like, that was really stupid. Well, like, I can look at a big wheel. I can still ride a big wheel. Like, I guess this really wasn't PTSD. I just think the story skews me out. It's like the same way people talk about like they hate when they talk about people popping pimples.
Oh
Meanwhile,
yeah.
I love Dr. Pimple Popper, and I can talk about popping pimples all day. And like I can talk about blood and all this stuff, but like there's certain things that just I don't like. Like blood doesn't bother me, pimples don't bother me, but a broken bone skeeves me out like beyond belief. So like, yeah, I don't think I truly have PTSD. I don't want to like belittle, or I don't want to
Oh
not
yeah, for
belittle. I
sure.
don't want to make. I definitely don't not want to trivialize it. But like, yeah, dude, I think I when it comes to like broken bones, that's pretty much the only thing that I take away from is like I can't do it. And yeah, no, I can't really say I took anything away from that. It was just like it was just one of those like shitty things that happens. It's like a dumb decision. You know what I mean? I just now I know never to go down the big wheel again and try to surf and impress somebody.
Well, I
I
mean,
guess that's the biggest one.
you have to look at it from the stance of like now in your career where you're at, like you've been doing this for a while, and do you do anything that you do to impress people, or do you do things that you do because it matters to you?
I joke around a lot, so like I do it because I know it does impress some people, but not like I don't do it solely to impress people. Like
Yeah.
for instance, it's like really stupid, but like a couple, like several times in the last 2 months, it might be like an upper body day for me in the gym, and like I deadlift, but and like my max is only 455, right? So it's not even like that heavy of a lift, but um, I don't pull nearly as much as I used to because I actually hurt myself going for 460. So that kind of scares me to go heavier like that. Um, but like yeah, like I might be warmed up in my upper body from like the session, but then like my boys will be in the gym. There's already 4 plates on the side on each side, and they're deadlifting right now, doing like triples and doing steps to 5, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna do it. I can do this. Like, you guys need to lift weight. I was like, you guys need to go heavier, and like just joking around with them. And then they're like, you're gonna do it. And I'm like, watch. I get fucking set up and I pull it. Like no warm ups, no nothing. I just literally will pull like 405 like it's nothing.
Yeah.
So it's like we'll joke around. I'll start screaming in the gym and just start acting like a nut job, and that's who I am. But like it's still fun. Like like that. I don't really but all in all, I don't like even like physique building. Like what I do, I did it not to impress anybody. I actually did it more out of spite to begin with, and then I kind of saw like, oh shit, one, I'm really good at it. Two, I'm getting much better in my knowledge of it. Three, I can help people do it. And that's kind of where I took it. So
Yeah.
like sure, is my physique a thirst trap to a degree? Sure, but like, do I do it solely to make it a thirst trap? No, not at all. Like it is what it is. So
So what was the spite like? Were you told that you couldn't
mm,
do something? You're like, screw you, I'm gonna do this.
no, not at all. My ex girlfriend when I was 18 years old cheated on me. So like as an 18-year-old, you're like fucking devastated, and you're like, oh my god, the end of the world is here. And I was like, well, I'm gonna make sure I look the best I ever looked, and you'll never find anybody like me. I mean, obviously, then again, also 18 years old, it's like your body's not the only thing that matters, of course. But like when you're 18, you think that way, right? You still live at home, no bills, no responsibilities. So all you have is time to work out and work your full-time job or be in uni, and that's it, right? So I was living at home. I was 18. And I just started going to the gym and just taking it seriously. And then next thing you know, I started drinking some protein shakes, and boom, I exploded.
It's crazy, like how many people who are in the fitness industry who literally have that very same or similar story. Like, it
Mm.
doesn't take
Well,
much.
well, gotta remember too. Like I think I remember. I forgot where I heard this from. This is years ago, so I couldn't tell you the person, where, or anything. But I remember the line of sorts. But they're like pretty much everybody who's in the gym is insecure about something. And the
Totally.
reason, for me, I bloomed late. And when I say I bloomed, like my attractiveness level, so to speak, it peaked much later in my life. So, like in high school, I mean, shit, even senior year of high school, junior year of high school, like, yeah, I was playing football and soccer, but like, and I would work out a little bit here and there, but like, I really wasn't the, in quote, apple to anybody's eye, so to speak. I wasn't the one that most girls wanted, to talk to or want to, be my girlfriend, so to speak, right? Back in, and that's just how you look at life when you're a child, right? So I'm like, whatever. Like, but then when I was 21, 22, started working out more, whatever the case may be. And then, of course, like, working and actually making money and starting to do like stuff for myself as an adult. Yeah, but like once I started taking care of myself and like, do all my eyebrows, which they need to be done actually, do all my eyebrows and, shave and take care of myself and like really take care of my body and whatnot. Then it's like, shit, okay. Like, then I had rhinoplasty because I broke my nose when I was younger and in baseball, and it it healed not good. So like I got my nose fixed, and like once everything came together, it was like, oh shit, I'm 25 years old, 26 years old, and like I'm starting to be noticed. So you can kind of see that, like, for some of my friends who were like in high school, they were doing they were like these guys were like oh, I talked to this girl, I kissed that girl, I did that girl, like nobody even liked me then. You know what I mean? So like I bloomed late, and that, but now it's like cool, like it is what it is. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that point, but it has to do with whatever you just asked me. So I remember. It does have to do with whatever you just told me.
No, you tied it in good. So, as far as that goes, because so many people that are new to the gym don't believe just how self-conscious, or in the
That's what it
past how
was.
self-conscious people were. Yeah.
Yeah.
How do
So,
you express that to your clients or people that meet you for the first time?
man, you know what? That's a good question because, quite honestly, I don't think I actually do. And for better or worse, it's more or less because I don't want. I mean, I guess like when we talk about marketing and personal training and like people want to they want a coach they can relate to. So sure, can I talk about my my insecurities and stuff? Sure, but you know I'm one of these guys, and like I don't know. Maybe some people who are going to listen to this kind of already know my journey, so to speak, so far as like just me personally that I go back to church, but and I'm only throwing it in because it ties into actually something I just heard at church like 2 weeks ago, and it says this like I could talk about my negativities and I could talk about my insecurities, but all I'm doing at that point is just reframing and basically rehashing all those negative things about myself in which I'm trying to be better. So instead of kind of what they say is like the power, the power of life and death is in the tongue. So it's like if I'm going to speak something, I don't want to keep on talking about my insecurities to make you feel like you can relate to me. Sure, we can get onto that topic, so to speak, but no, like how can we relate and like in a way that I can help you be better? Like how have I grown? How have I been better so that I can help you be better? Because if all we're doing is talking about my insecurities and how I got cheated on when I was 18 years old and how I thought it was the end of the world and how no girl liked me and how super insecure and I needed to work out and blah blah blah. Sure, like that's a lot of people's stories, but that would then like I would be then reliving that past. I'd be rehashing that. I'd be bringing it back up, and it really, while it happened, it holds no place anymore. So I don't really like when I talk to my clients. It's like I'd rather like say like, hey, like I've been there, yeah, but here's what I'm doing now, and here's where you are. Here's what you can do now, right? You start, like I kind of go at it differently. I speak more positive, positive, and speak about the future and what can be instead of kind of focusing on that past and what has happened. Because really, at the end of the day, like it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I like that.
You
That's
know?
a healthy approach to do it. Like something that I do for myself to get away from thinking about past times is thinking about what I have now and what I could still have, and thinking about like being grateful for things. So I'm curious, what are three things that stand out to you in this week that you are grateful for?
Grateful for my therapist. I don't think a lot of people give their therapist all the due credit that they probably should.
Mm-hmm.
My therapist is freaking amazing, and I would, we can get into that later, but definitely thankful for him. Thankful for my doggy Henri. He's just amazing. He's just a beautiful little dog, and he's so damn stubborn. It's like father like son. So I just love having him around, and thankful for my clients. I mean, I'm thankful for a lot more than three things. It's very hard to
Oh
like just
yeah.
narrow it down. Like I'm thankful for my friends and my family. I'm thankful for a conversation that I just had recently had with my mother. Like, there's just, I'm really grateful for a lot of the things in my life now because only a few months ago I was battling like really serious depression, like very bad depression, and but it was because of the friends that I had in my corner. It was because of the therapy that I had. I'm thankful for my Zoloft. I'm thankful for the people who made that antidepressant because it's been a life changer for me. And I,
Yeah.
like I just think it's so like amazing how far I've personally come. Um, you know, I'm thankful for the situations. I'm in an entrepreneur mastermind group now. Like I'm thankful for those guys and girls. Like they offer a really cool like perspective of things I've never really would have thought about. Like it's just really dope. So yeah, I'm pretty grateful for a lot of that shit.
Yeah, I think it's like you can't emphasize enough how important connection is, like
For
people to
sure.
people.
Yeah.
And I really valued the whole Kansas City summit. Like that was my first time. Like how many times have you been to the fitness summit?
Twice. That was my second time.
Okay.
Yeah, I was the type of person that like I don't know. I just kind of Well, I like to travel, but it's like if I'm going to travel, I don't want to travel within the states. Like I want like if I'm going to hop on a plane, I want to like hop on somewhere where I don't want to go like once or twice in my life. But like to finish summer, because like people like a lot of people will come through Toronto at some point in time, or come through New York, which I'm originally from New York and now I live in Toronto, so like you know, I normally don't do a lot of fitness events, but I knew like a lot of people were going this year, and Carolyn being one of like one of my best homegirls, if not the best homegirl I have. She was speaking, and I was like, "Yo, like I'm there to support you." You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? So
yeah,
like that's why. But I was super glad that I went for sure. Like got to meet a lot of great people, right? And got lots. It was just an amazing, just a great experience to like talk to people and really be kind of be around the people I look up to. Yeah,
yeah. I thought it was cool. Like my personality type is I'm pretty quiet at first because I like to figure people out. But then as things unfolded, especially in like the months afterwards, when I really started to learn about what everybody was about, and like learning about you and like how open you were about like mental health and stuff, because I think that's important. I think a lot of us have our battles, but just
yeah,
kind of learning how human we all were,
yeah,
because you meet a person at first and it's kind of like they're on a pedestal. Like I saw how your like online program was set up and I was like, holy shit, like this is high, like it's really well put together.
thank you,
And
thank
I
you.
just remember we were eating food at lunch and I just had never, it was super cool because it made sense. Everything had like integrity to it. And I was like,
Yeah,
this is a person that like I would want to learn from or like talk to or compare notes and stuff. And like
yeah,
that's something that I look for because I just see too much people like putting out kind of what you want to hear or
yeah,
like buzzwords and stuff. Like,
yeah.
are you tired of feeling burnt out? But I thought you really led by example, and there's countless other people like you. So it was kind of cool because if not for things like that, I wouldn't have those connections. And I think a lot of people are there for that kind of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, I appreciate that.
So, what was growing up in New York like? Like, were you born in New York
Yeah,
or?
so I'm putting this out there now for everybody that hears me because there, especially amongst my close buddies, they always joke about saying that I'm from Jersey. No, it's not the truth. In fact, my license plates still say New York, and I've been living in Canada for 3 years now. If all right, so I grew up. So I was born in Suffern, New York, which is Rockland County. So it's about 25 miles north of Manhattan. And then I lived in Rockland County only for until like maybe it was like what 7 years old, 8 years old, and then moved up to Orange County and moved up to a town called Newburgh, New York. And I grew up there. So I grew up. So Newburgh is about an hour, an hour and 5 minutes north of Manhattan. So like if you're well, I don't know anything really about BC or Alberta, but the equivalent would be like living in Hamilton and then traveling to Toronto,
Okay.
like the downtown. Like it's basically about an hour, a little bit over that. That's what kind of how I grew up and where I grew up. And then yeah, I grew up there, and then um, like New York is New York, dude. Like it's an amazing place. Like I mean, I grew up in an area where it's like you had the city, like so Newburgh itself. I remember this from eighth grade. My history teacher told me. I think she said it was 1 square mile, the actual city of Newburgh, like or the actual Newburgh itself. It's like 1 square mile, but like you had the city and town, and even the dynamic of people that lived in certain areas. It's crazy. Like like the insanely wealthy and then the insanely poor, like within 1 square mile of each other, is actually quite crazy. Fun fact about Newburgh is George. George, oh, hold on. George, I have a visitor. Sorry. There was a George Washington um, had a headquarters there. Actually, Washington headquarters from when he was during the Revolutionary War. That's where he was at in Newburgh, New York. So it's pretty cool.
Nice.
And then yeah, so I grew up there, and then from Newburgh, I just you know, then I moved down to Jersey for a bit, and I love Jersey, and I was working down there. I was in the hospital down there, and then moved to Canada.
So, at what point would you say your fitness career started? Like, what spurred that on? What kind of like motivated you to be like, I'm gonna be a trainer?
Okay, I love this story actually because this is kind of for me, it was all right. I grew up in a family like all of us where, well, I'm sure like all of us, but like most of us or a lot of us, I should say that would, I'm getting really good with like not generalizing. I'm getting better at this. Where I think a lot of us grew up with families like, kind of traditionalists in the sense that like, you grow up, get through high school, graduate, go to college, get a degree, get a 9 to 5, get married, have kids, retire, repeat. Like that's kind of the same old story for generations. It's been like that, I'm sure, for everybody that we know. But for me, like I've always thought bigger. I've always had other aspirations. So I remember being like I was like a freshman in college 4 years in a row because like I changed colleges, changed majors. I just didn't know what the frig I wanted to do. Well, I had an idea because I was working at a hospital for 6 years. I got a lot of family in healthcare, so I was gonna go into nursing. And like when I graduated high school, my best friend at the time, we were like, all right, like let's do nursing. And so we both applied to the same school. We both got in, but I was like, you know what? No, I don't feel like doing it. So he ended up going. Now he's like a very successful nurse practitioner. Like he's insanely intelligent. I started working at the hospital. And then around that same time, I was like, do I want to do this? Do I not want to do this? And I also at the same time applied for NYPD, and I actually got in. I got into it, but then like they called me for the academy, and that's when I started personal training. And I had loved personal training so much, and like having the ability to kind of create my schedule and all that stuff. So I declined NYPD. Um, and yeah, just like I said, I just didn't finish with nursing because I was just like, you know what, like I like it, and I think it's like I wasn't ready. That's it at the end of the day for me. I wasn't ready. I've always wanted to do shit on my own. So I think now, like I'm, 31, 32. Like if you were like, do you want to go to nursing school? If I wasn't doing what I was doing now, would I go to nursing school now? Absolutely. Absolutely. I would go back. But I do well now, and I do really well with my business and with coaching, and I'm really freaking good. So like, I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to, try to fix what's not broken.
Totally.
Right. So yeah, but yeah, so like basically what happened was, and to really kind of answer your question, um, the moment that like I was like, I'm training, fuck it, that's it. I remember being in clinical, um, and I was missing gym days. Like I was missing my training. So I was used to training like 4 days, 5 days, um, but I was missing training all the time, and I was getting so depressed. And I was like, I'd rather work out and help others in the gym and know that I'll be in the gym instead of trying to make the gym fit my new life. And I was like, fuck it. I'd rather go train. So I finally got my personal training cert, and then I started personal training in 2012.
It's awesome. And I like how you talk about sort of the need for physical activity because I think that's the case for a lot of people. Like I know for myself, like if I miss a week in the gym, it doesn't matter like because I'll try out all the different group fitness and stuff too. But like as long as I get my body moving and sometimes it's being around other people too, it's
Yeah.
so beneficial.
Yeah.
And like if you are without it, you really it hits you like a brick wall.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like for me, it was, like it was one of those things where I was like, you know what, I'm really just I don't know, it's hard to put into words like how I felt at that time. Yeah, like I know what it's like to be depressed. I think I was kind of depressed not going to the gym, like being in the clinical, like sure it was great. I got to, like first semester for almost any nursing program, you probably can ask any nurse friend that first semester is always going to the old people, going to the old seniors' homes and wiping their butts and like it was cool. Like sure it was great, I guess, but at the same time it was like nah, this is not what I want for my life. Like I knew that I wanted to be in the gym. Like I'm a people person. Like I love and nurses are normally people. You know what I mean? Like they are working with people at the most vulnerable every day. Um, but I wanted to do it into a different capacity and one that I felt that I could truly make a difference. And personal training was that route for me.
I like it. And it kind of demonstrates two or three examples of when you had to show intuition, like making these decisions, like were you going to be a cop, were you going to be a nurse, were you going to be a trainer? So in the last year, 2019, when have you used intuition and what has that looked like for you?
Fuck, dude. Um, I've had some personal moments in my life this within this last 6 months to a year where I had to like really use some when I say like intuition and like really kind of go with gut feelings and stuff like that. Yeah, I've had to use that. And has it played out well? I think so. I, I'm not in a bad place mentally. So I think I always put my mental health first, and I always put my mental health first. And if my mental health is suffering, I have to look at my environment and my situations and try to find out why. But you know, yeah, man, I think what I don't say I have to use it less, but yeah, I think that I just have great friends and great support and just great people in my life that quite honestly, it's like, I feel like there's no need for me to have to like really think deep about things, about certain things, like, like what my choices are going to be or decisions are going to be, whatever. It's like, if I have to use intuition, it's because something is really off and I'm trying to justify it or like it's kind of like I know what's the right thing to do. I just have to do it. You know what I mean? So like there's all those different things that kind of play into that. But yeah, man, I think I've definitely used some intuition within the last 6 months to a year, and it seems to have played out pretty well.
Well, it's kind of cool because you answered your question without answering your question in a way. Like you articulated it, but it's just you talk about like the people that make you so you don't have to use intuition. Like you're surrounded by people, you're in an environment. You use the word environment, which I really like because that's something that like I really prioritize environment. For me, like I'm going into like the second year of being like a full-time trainer, and environment is incredibly important for me because it maintains my ability to have the right attitude, the right approach to be able to go into each day and set an example for people around me. Like you can't be negative or toxic if you're going, well, just as a human in general, but especially if you're going to charge people money as their personal trainer, which it's easier said than done. Like it's really tough to maintain that stronghold where like you are a cup full of goodness kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, that's the
Um,
thing too. Oh, go ahead.
all good.
For
Your turn.
Well, no. So what I'm saying is like, you can't, and you know, how I look at life is like you can't expect to pour out, and to other people if you yourself aren't being refreshed and being poured into, right? And that's why you need that support. You need good people around you, and you need activities that are gonna help recharge you. You know, I'm not one of these guys that's like oh, what's your morning routine like? My morning routine is I get the fuck up, I brush my teeth, I walk my dog and feed him, and then wherever the day may take me, I just know that I have shit to get done, like my client check-ins and emails. Like, but what are things that I do to actually refresh myself? Yeah, I will go to I make sure I get to the gym. That's non-negotiable. Um, Sometimes if I want to feel good, I'll just order McDonald's. I'll track it. I'll put it in my fitness pal, but I know I'm gonna and I like McDonald's. Like I don't care. Like these are things that I like. Or it may be going out with a friend, going out to dinner, like just doing things. You know what I mean? Like I think the whole I don't know if this is where you were going with it at all, but like for me, it was one thing that I think about when I think about this conversation is like at whether you're a personal trainer or fitness enthusiast or you're a client or potential client or whatever, like there's more to the world than the gym and fitness. If it, like fitness is meant, and good nutrition is meant to elevate and amplify other great areas of your life. Like it's not meant to overtake everything, right? And so if you feel that you're constantly like, and maybe in this context or in this case, like pouring out to your clients all the time, but you're not like actually doing anything for yourself that would make you feel better and make you a better coach, then you got to do something. You know what I'm saying? Like you got to do something about that. And so for me, it's like, yeah, I have great friends and whatnot, but like I said, I guess I've also learned that like it's not necessarily all about go, 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 hustle, hustle, hustle. Like it is, and to a degree, it is like you got to work, you got to pay bills, you got to earn that, income. You need to have people wanting to pay you for your service, but at the same time, you got to balance it with like, okay, what's shit that's going to make you feel better, and what are you going to do for yourself, right? And yeah, so I think that's where you find that good balance, and you find that good balance of being poured into while pouring out.
I agree. And you talk about like church and how it plays a role with you, and I like that because like my background, I used to go to church all the time. There was a point in my life where I thought I was going to be a minister, which is pretty wild.
Same here. That's same here. Crazy. It's
So
crazy.
like what's your journey with that been like? Have you always gone, or did you have a moment where you went away from it? And what's it like for you now?
Oh man, can you hear me by the way? Because my neighbor's dogs are just screaming.
Yeah, yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, just making sure. Shut up. Um, man. Okay. This is all right. All right. You know what, dog? I'm gonna keep it honest with you. Like, this is the first time that anybody's ever actually asked me this, like, especially on a platform like this. So I've got to be honest. I'm thoroughly impressed. Thank you.
You're
Anyway,
welcome.
let me continue on. For me, I grew up in the Catholic Church, and I ended up like I was an altar server, etc. Like, but like where it's what's kind of funny, and I kind of joke about it, and I really shouldn't, is the fact that like considering the scandals that the Catholic Church has just found itself in within the last couple of years, like I had a fantastic priest. He was absolutely amazing. Like, to the point where like he was just so into the community, and just he was an amazing human being to serve with and to learn from. And like, yeah, I was one of those kids that, like, I remember being like, my mom, it was kind of funny. I was in first grade reading the kids' Bible. Like, my mom didn't make me do it. I just picked it up and just would read it and read it and read it. And my mom was like, she actually was scared, not scared like that it would be a bad thing if I became a priest or a minister or whatever. But like, she was just like, well, I guess he's not giving me any grandkids. You know what I mean? Like, but like that's she was, like that's how I guess she was kind of thinking about it. But like, yeah, she's like, yeah, we thought for sure you were gonna be a priest. And I was like, they're like, into my teens, obviously, you kind of get into this rebellious state, and you kind of question everything that you believe about faith and what you believe about, what you've learned and what you've been taught. And, of course, I had a lot of the same questions that every single person who questions the belief in the, in the divine or in Christianity or whatever. Then throughout my teens, like, sure, I just kind of did my own thing. My mom didn't pressure me. Nobody pressured me to do anything. But then I moved to Jersey, and I started. This was as recent as 2012. And then I started moving. Like at this point, I was like 24, 25, something like that. I was still like I moved, but like there was something that always felt missing, and like I don't know what it was, but like I never did drugs, and it wasn't that, like, even drinking, like I was never like a big drinker at all. So I just didn't know what the hell was going on in my life, and but there was a lot of moments where I was like kind of depressed about shit. And in 2012 I met Mark Young. I don't know if you know who he is, in Hamilton. So we met via Facebook. I added him because he was online coaching at the time, and in 2012, like, online coaching is nowhere near what it is today. And I was like, well, how do you do that? Like, how do you online coach? And so like he started teaching me, started telling me about things, and we built a friendship back then. He's known me for 7 years already. He's known me since I was 25 years old. He's known me. Like, he's watched me grow in the last 7 years. Like, I can't say a lot of people in my life have done that like the way he has. And I remember just one day, because of everything that I knew about, or everything I knew about like religion and Christianity, et cetera, I was like, I wanted no part of it. But then I remember one day he asked me, and this actually, I don't think anybody knows this until now in the public domain, but I remember him asking me one day, he asked me about my family and about my parents and like, if I got along with them. And I was at that time, I really didn't, I was just very isolated from them. Not that they did anything. I isolated myself just because of the headspace I was in at that time. Um, and then like we were talking, and then like one day he's like, "Can I ask you a personal question?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." Like at this point, like whatever. And he's like, "Do you believe in God?" And I was like, "Oh fuck, don't ask me this question." Like literally, it was that reaction, and I was like, "Don't ask me this question." I was so angry because I was angry with myself about a lot of things. But like when you're angry about something, when you're angry with yourself, you tend to displace it and like scapegoat it, and you blame everybody and everything else but yourself. That's what a lot of people do in general. It's, whatever. So like, but yeah, like then we got to this big conversation, and then he, to make a very incredibly long story short, he was telling me about this one particular church that was in New York, and for about 6 months, every few weeks he would ask me if I went or have I thought about it, and I was like, nah, or I'll go next week, and I would never go, and like that type of thing. And one day I was like, all right, screw it, I'm just gonna go, and I went one time, changed my life forever, changed my life and changed the trajectory of my life. Personally, I think so. Just how everything has played out in my life, and the understandings of my life and like who I am as a human being and who I am as a person, who I am as I live on Earth, and I'm finding my purpose, so to speak, on this earth. Um, yeah, pretty much the same church that it was in New York, like started here in Toronto. And like how my church looks at it is like, it's just, one house, many rooms, so to speak. Right. And that's pretty much what it is. And, that's one conversation I used to shy away from, like, why do you go to church or this or that? Like, I used to shy away from that question, that conversation a lot, but then I realized like it's actually part of my identity, and I have no reason to be ashamed about it. I have no reason to feel stupid or anything else. Like, this is who I am, like it or love it. And, that's it.
Totally. Well,
So,
I mean, like, people that are invested in you are invested in the things that make up who you are. So whether
correct.
you're aware of it or not, like, the give a shit factor is very high when it comes to things that make up your identity. So
Yes.
it'll be nice for people who are like, hell yeah, I want to listen to this. They'll get to know that part about you and like how much it matters. Living in Toronto now, because that's where you're talking to me from. How is that different from living in New York? How do they compare?
Oh man. New York is its own beast. Like, I'm actually going back down at the end of this month. Because I hadn't been since March, April. Um, yeah, dude, it's just its own, like, it's a massive city. All right. Like, it's just super large. The amount of neighborhoods that are there just uh man, it's insane. Like, it's very hard to put into words what it is. It's like everything and anything you can imagine and think of and would want to see, etc., you'll find there. Excuse me. Toronto is a really dope city, but it's its own thing. Like, when I first came here, I was like, oh, like people were like, oh, Toronto's like the New York of Canada, and I'm like, oh, cool, I'm going to the New York of Canada. But when I got here, I was like, it's a city, sure, but it's its own thing. Like, I've never been to LA, but I've heard people say that it's actually more like LA or even more like Chicago than it is New York. Like I said, I've never been to either of those cities, so I couldn't tell you. But if I was to say that if there was one Canadian city that actually reminded me of New York more than anything, it would be Montreal. Montreal on a much smaller scale is like New York City. On a way smaller scale is like New York City.
Yeah.
But I mean, it has to do with like the architecture, um, the restaurants. Like, Toronto's got a ton of restaurants, of course. Um, Well, I think like in Montreal, I think they say like there it has the most restaurants per capita in like all of the world or something like that. Like it's just restaurant and every cuisine you could absolutely imagine you're gonna find there. And I'm pretty sure it's here too in Toronto, but like I know it's over there. And like there's just like in Toronto, like obviously we have the sports culture. Obviously, Raptors just won the NBA Finals. So like when the Raptors were in the finals, bro, this city was so damn live. And it was like the whole country, though all of Canada was behind the Raptors. But like being in this city, there was moments where I couldn't even go to sleep because there was dudes on the balcony like, "Let's go Raptors!" It's like midnight, and it's not even game. It's not even the game that they won the finals. It was like they just won one of the games. And, "Let's go Raptors!" God damn, shut up. Like they were just going off. So like Toronto is definitely a city that's it's a large city. It's a very diverse city. It's actually I think the most diverse city in North America, if not the world. Like when they talk about like the amount of cultures, like it's definitely one of the most diverse cities in the world. But I think definitely in North America, it is the most diverse. So you get a lot of people here, which is amazing. Yeah, man, like Toronto's dope. Toronto's dope. I can't it took me a while for me to kind of really call Toronto home because I always thought maybe I'd go back to New York or I'd maybe move somewhere else. But nah, you know what? Right now, the friends, the community, the church, everything that I have here, like why would I want to leave that? At least right now, you know what I mean? Like it how everything is, it's great. Like what am I gonna do?
Yeah.
So
Well, I mean, like I'm always pumped that you're living in Toronto. I'm like one of us, one of us.
no,
Like
dude,
if somebody's living in
I was
Canada, it's
dope.
cool.
What's funny is that like I've only been here 3 years versus clearly people who are born and raised in Toronto or like around the area in Ontario. And but like I think I forgot who said it. It was one of my guys though. He was like, when they think about the city of Toronto, they think about me. And I'm like, really? Like I've only been here for like 3 years, but I think it's just because like I'm just so flamboyant in the shit that I do and say that like, and people know that I live in Toronto that like now it's like when they hear about Toronto, they're like, oh, that Lou lives there. You know what I mean? Saul lives here. That's my guy. Saul, he's like, it's like one of my best friends, and like he, lives in Toronto. Like it's kind of funny if you say if you type in Google right now, who's the most handsome, who's the most handsome man in Toronto? I don't know how he figured out this SEO, but he got his his thing to pop up number one, and I'm like, God damn it! Like, come on.
That's
But
awesome.
yeah, it's pretty cool though. It's pretty funny, but yeah, like there's a lot of us over here, dude. And like Toronto's fitness scene is really dope. Like I actually genuinely I like it. I know a lot of people here. Um, yeah, and like everybody's just cool with everybody. Like nobody's like nobody really talks crap about each other, and it's not too much of a catty scene here. At least not that I know of. But then again, I don't go looking for it. So the people who I involve myself with, they're just all like really dope people.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool.
So if you could like describe the difference in living somewhere where there's a lot of diversity versus living somewhere where there's not, like what kind of comparison would you give? Because you talked about like when you were in school and getting all the detentions and like diversity was not very
Yeah.
big.
No. I will say no. Diversity is very big in Newburgh. It's super huge in Newburgh. I was just yeah. I'm just kind of I'm basically just talking shit when I say that because it's like I think like in my grade alone, I think there were, like it was like me and my one boy. Then I think we might have been like we would have been like couple like two or three minorities, so to speak. Even though like I know that wasn't the case. Like of course not. Like I grew up in a very diverse area. Um, but I've always grown up in diverse areas. I don't know anything. I don't know anything not diverse.
Yeah.
Like what I mean? Except maybe where I graduated high school. But even now, like it's become a more diverse town. So like I was like I think, man, am I graduating? I don't even I couldn't even pretend to give you a number. Um, I remember though that the amount of the diversity um, in Newburgh it was way higher than it was when I moved to my other high school, Washingtonville. And at least when I was there, but now it's way different. Like I said, times change, people move like from the city to the suburbs, like things change, like dynamics always change, right? For the most part. So like, um, I really don't know what it's like to not be in a diverse area, to not be around a bunch of different people.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great thing, honestly. Like, you kind of think about people who have never experienced that, and you kind of just like, damn, that sucks. Like, you don't know what it's really like to be around people that aren't like you, so to
Yeah.
speak.
Well, I totally
And
agree because like my when I went to high school and junior high, elementary school, I grew up in a rural community. So it's just a bunch of white farming families. And you have like the First Nations community,
yeah,
and you have like maybe one Asian kid, just one. And like it was just as soon as I moved to Edmonton when I was like 18 or 19. Boom, because Edmonton was getting like super super diverse. And
yeah,
it's just it's alarming how much you realize like how blind you are to other culture until you're in that other culture.
yeah,
And then once you open your eyes to that, how much more empathy you can have, because so many people aren't willing to put themselves in other people's shoes. So
absolutely.
I love like Toronto's culture and the diversity and what Edmonton's becoming too. Like Edmonton has changed within the time that I've lived here. Like I think I've lived in Edmonton for probably like 8 years or something. And just there's been more and more different culture and more different like events, restaurants. Like the restaurants have just completely escalated because you're getting so many people that are wanting to bring
Yeah,
different cuisines in because they loved them, and then everybody here is loving them.
yeah, and that's the thing, right? Like, food brings people together,
Yeah.
culture brings people together, and when you have such a diverse group of people that want to, it's about the inclusivity of it all, right? Like, no one group of people has a monopoly on food or a gathering, or like, it's just, like, yeah, you're just, that's what you want. You want diversity. You want people that are going to share their culture and share their views and ideas with other people, because the only way you're going to progress as a society is to have conversations and be able to sit down and talk about things like that. And like, that's how you build a community. Like, community is a very big word for me, right? And especially lately, because I think that it's so important, because there are just a lot of people that just feel isolated and alone and don't have community. And and that's why people, when they isolate themselves, they do, no, stupid. That might be a little harsh, but like, they do things that aren't necessarily good, like, because if you're isolated, like, and as somebody who has isolated himself, like, I can say, like, kind of wonder, like, what the fuck are you doing with yourself? What are you doing with your life? Or like, how are you helping others? You know what I mean? Like, you want to get around good people, and you want to learn more. You want to do those type of things. So, for
Agreed.
sure.
Agreed. With you and like figuring out more about yourself, because like I don't want to like ask questions that are tough to answer too much, but it's just like you talk about seeing a therapist, and I think that's a valuable topic because I think a lot of people, it's really hard to make that choice, and it's really hard to go through that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
What was something that empowered you to make that choice, and what are things that you're super grateful for from making that choice?
Man, that's good. That's a very good question. So for me, I had done therapy, before, and then I stopped doing it. But then, there were events that happened in October, November, something like that, December. Like, late. It was like later. It was late last year, and I had a really, really, really bad anxiety attack. Really bad. Like, dude, I wanted to curl up in fetal position and like just not uncurl. Like, it was really bad, and then my mental health just took a hit from there. And then, um, earlier this year, I was going through some shit, and I just got into a really bad depression, dude. Like, at first it was like, all right, I just feel sad, but like, I'm getting through my days. Like, it is what it is. But then like there were days I just didn't want to get out of bed, dude. And like me, of all people, like the most loud, flamboyant, like I wish Freddie Mercury was like my older brother type thing. Like that's how nuts I was in a sense, in a fun way. But like I just I could not get myself together. I could not. Like my business took a hit. Like, I was like later than normal with my client check-in responses because I just couldn't get up. Like, and some of my clients actually knew that. I feel like there was grace from them because I was honest with them. And I said, like, look, like I'm going through a really bad depression right now, guys. Like, I'm sorry. I'll get your stuff I'll get your stuff back. And that was it. Like, we were I was very as open as I could be, you know what I mean? Without giving detail.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was like, look, like this is what I'm going through. And some of my clients even actually knew what was going on because like we've built that rapport. But dude, like then there was a moment where like, and again, I know that I'm like, and I don't say this in a braggadocious manner, and I don't say it to even make a joke, but like, I know that I'm a loved human being. Like I know I am. You know what I mean? Like my friends love me, my family loves me, my dog loves me, usually, unless I don't have food. And then like my clients love me, like all that. Like I'm a loved human being. And I remember sitting in Starbucks working and like I just had like a breakdown, dude. Like nobody loves me. Why am I here? Nobody gives a shit about how I feel. Like, dude, it was a bad morning. I'll
Yeah.
never forget that morning. I don't think I would have, and I'm not saying that people who do this are dumb. I'm saying that the action, I wouldn't have done something dumb. And I'm not, and I won't shy away from that phrase or anything because of how I've experienced it. I wouldn't have done anything dumb to where I felt that like I would have robbed my family or my friends of me. But I also felt that I knew, like I felt that feeling, and that was scary as fuck. The scariest thing I've ever could even fathom in my entire life. And dude, no lie, I was just like, I can't do this. Like, I've got to do something. I remember I called up like two of my best friends, ironically, who live in Jersey, and even and like I was like, yo, like I need to talk to you guys, and I talked to them for like an hour, just crying. Like I was having like I was just bawling my fucking eyes out. Like it was just a bad moment. And like I look back and I think that's why I'm such an advocate of like, yo, talk to someone. Like if you ever get that depressed, ever, it's gonna be tough to go through. But I'm now 4 or 5 months removed from there, and I can look back and be like, fuck, like I'm so glad I didn't do anything stupid. I'm so glad I saw that help. I'm so glad that I was able to recognize that feeling in that moment and know that it was going to be okay. I just needed to talk to someone. Because imagine if I lived my life based off of that one emotion or that one feeling at that time. And I went through with something that I now would have, in hindsight, I would have clearly regretted. Right. And that's why for me, I'm like, yo, like, I'm just grateful for that. I'm just grateful. Like the moment for me was like, I remember sitting down on my couch and like I had my 5 minute, like I don't do my 5 minute journal all the time. But I remember I was like, fuck this. Like I literally said, I was by myself with my dog and I was like, fuck this. I know who I am. I am a great son. I am a damn good coach. I am a loyal friend. I am an amazing person. I am not going to let this defeat me. I had to speak, goes back to what we talked about earlier. I can talk about all the reasons why I got into that depression. What the fuck good is that going to do for me? Zero. So I was like, no, this is who I am. This is what I do. This is what I'm about. And even if at that time I didn't necessarily exercise that, I knew that I can get back to that because that's who I was and who I was working on becoming. And that's what I did. So I kind of like really just affirmed it right then and there. And then I was like, fuck it, I'm going to do it. And I just worked on it more and more and more and more. And again, dude, here I am. It's August 1st. My birthday's in 3 weeks. I'm probably the lightest I've ever felt in my entire life. And I thank God for that. And I thank all my friends and family that were in my corner in the darkest of times. My sister and I got closer. My one sister and I got way, like, she knows everything that I've gone through, dude. And she's 19 months younger than me, but like she knows everything, everything. And like my niece and my nephew, they're probably the reasons why I didn't do anything so dumb. And like that was like my moment. I was like, I got people to live for. I've got things to live for. And that here I am. And here I am, quite honestly. And that's why I try not to, like, I try to really look at like the silver linings of everything at this point. It's like, yeah. I'm not gonna, what the fuck? You really got to do some dumb shit to anger me. Like, you really have to do something. Otherwise, like, yo, I don't care what you say, what you do. Yo, as long as you, like, I don't know, like, you can even say something that you think is gonna harm me, but like, man, what are you gonna do? Like, unless you're physically coming after me, like, I'm not gonna do it. Like, I don't care. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't. Like, I've seen that low. I've seen how bad things can get in my own head and in my own life. Nah, I'm good on that. Like, that's it. So I try to like bring that into my coaching. I try to do that in my life in general. It's just like, yo, there's so much shit we should be thankful about and have a lot of gratitude for, and really be looking at that. All that other negative shit is just whatever. It's noise. And like it doesn't last forever. So that's kind of how I look at it now.
I like it. I'm glad we got on that topic because I think that's important. Like, people, you can't speak about those things enough because at the end of the day, like, that's life. Like, life hits you with just the shittiest moments and the toughest times. And I'm pretty sure everybody that we both know has some measure of something that hit them with a comparable impact.
Yeah.
Like, I know
I see. Oh, go ahead.
going into the industry, the fitness industry, when I was kind of like figuring out my intuition, figuring out like what matters to me, what do I want to do, like, I totally hit like a wall where I was like rocking in the fetal position, like, holy shit, so much stress, so much stuff, like, I don't know what I want. And just
Yeah.
being in this industry, feeling a purpose and having that right community, that right circle of people makes a huge difference on just life, like what you get
Yeah.
out of life, which is so important.
Yeah. That's the thing, dude. Like, we can say, hey, I don't need anybody. I don't need this. I don't need that. And it's like, sure, you don't. Hold on, my doggy's just Henri. Yeah, I want you to meet my dog, by the way, because he's awesome. Henri, viens. Henri, viens. All right, this is my doggy. I want the entire world to see him. This is Henri.
Nice. Hi.
So cute. He's so cute. This dog, seriously, in the toughest of times, literally is like my lifesaver, dude. Like, he's just so freaking awesome. He's so awesome that I bought him a Versace robe.
Perfect.
All right, buddy, go. There. Yeah, he's just like, yeah, he's awesome. But like, what I was saying before, though, is like, I've become such a mental health advocate because of I've seen its effects, and I think it's also, I feel like some people we express kind of like faux empathy.
Yeah.
Like, we want to say that we feel bad, or but then it's like, but you don't know how necessarily to, like, you can be an advocate for something if you've never been through it. But like, unless you've actually really been through it or really experienced it, I don't think you'll truly understand like the severity of said issue.
Yeah.
Right. And that's why, like, now, like, yeah, before I could say like, hey, hey, if you're depressed, come talk to me. But now I'm like, no, if you're fucking depressed, please come talk to me.
Yeah.
Because now I understand and see it through a whole different lens and understand way better than I did before.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, I just think that now, like, with, especially in fitness, because like kind of tying this, bring this all back around just from like the very first few things is like, we get into fitness because of maybe some insecurities or some things that are just not going well in life, and we want, like fitness, how we work out, what we eat, like those are things that we can technically can control. um and even then sometimes people become a little too much of a control freak. But I would say that, you know we could, if we can somehow take the psychology of, and or understand our feelings and emotions and become more self-aware, and also use like fitness to amplify these things again, like again, make things, or make things better in our lives and not necessarily drive ourselves into the ground. I think overall, I think we would just feel better in general, just be better human beings, quite
Yep.
honestly.
Agreed. So, in the last 7 days, I want you to think of one thing, one little moment or action that brought you the most joy.
That brought the most joy. I've spent some time with some really great people. Thank you, joy.
That's good. Like some people answer that so differently, and you get to know a person so much by how they answer it. Because like some people might be like, "Yeah, man, I released my new package. It's this online program." Like that's some people's idea of joy, and they're missing out on so much in life. And when your life is about people, you're getting so much more. So I like to hear
Way
that.
more,
Yeah,
way more, dude. I've had some really, like I would say that I've met some incredible people in my life recently, and like it really has like upped the level of joy in my life.
totally. And your dog too. Dogs are important.
Oh, he's just freaking amazing, that dog. He's super stubborn. He ended up on the countertop. Um, so like, let me see if I can kind of give you a quick little show. All right. So the countertop's here, and then he jumped onto his cage. So like he jumped on, and the long story short is like, I'm just going to show you this. Like there's a crate here that I don't want him. Like I actually covered it because I thought he'd be too scared to climb on it because it moves too much. But nope, this dog literally, I don't know, climbed it or went around it somewhere, and he must have been sitting up on that, on the oven. I mean, on the stove, probably the entire time I was at the gym, which is
Oh,
probably for about a
jeez.
little over an hour. He just sat there. He couldn't, like, I walked in, he was sitting, like he was so scared he couldn't move anywhere. I'm like, how the hell did you get up there? That's the third time he's done that. I was like, I can't get mad at him. He's like his dad. He's just super curious, and well, curiosity had him on the stove, and obviously, I'm like, thank God the thing wasn't on.
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
awesome.
yeah,
So,
dude.
I have a question that I ask every single one of my guests, and it's
So
if you could give one piece of advice on how to live your life authentically to the fullest, what would that piece of advice be?
good fucking question. I don't know. I wish I had an answer. Again, like I said, I'm really not that deep, but
Same.
I guess what I would say is that be more honest and vulnerable, because a lot of the times when you have your guard up in general, it doesn't matter. Like some people say, like, they enter relationships, oh, my guard's up, or they, you know, whatever, anytime they meet someone, oh, my guard's up. It's like, all right, well, there's nothing wrong with being vulnerable because that puts you into a real position. And in a society and a generation where we're curating our content to make it look like we're living our best lives, right? It's like, no, if you want to be authentic, then give authentic and be authentic. And that means being honest and vulnerable. And that means being an open book. And that means really telling your story and like sharing it with the world. Um, and not necessarily the world as in like the entire globe, but the people in your world, in
Yep.
your immediate, right? And like the only way that you're going to be able to do that is by, um, yeah, it's really just to, be you and stop trying to, stop trying to tell people or live a life that you think people want you to live. Rather, live a life that does serve others, but in a way that doesn't come off or that isn't selfish or self-seeking, and like you'll start to find your way.
That's good advice. I like it. This has been a fun episode.
Yeah, dude.
All
Dope.
right. Thanks for joining me.
Oh, thank you.
Please share this episode on social media. I can put ego aside. At the end of the day, I had a really valuable conversation with my friend Louie, and it was a conversation we might not have made time for otherwise. So, I mean, if you didn't listen, you're missing out. Sucks to be you. I got to meet his dog. Did you get to meet his dog? I waved at him. So, I hope you enjoy. Thanks for listening.